All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a wonderful Monday. Probably actually keep this one a bit short. Um, so basically, I discovered Jamboards. Completely had no idea about this tool. It's a free tool with Google. It's a whiteboard that you can collaborate with other people with. I had no idea this existed. And yes, I am a tech professional. I do IT for a living. Anyways, I digress. But so for anybody who's learning computer science or just watching these just to, I don't know, for fun, whatever, but like, I don't know. I constantly tell people to go easy on yourself. This doesn't come naturally to a lot of us. How do I even describe that? So, in my lifetime, I've seen a wide range of technology. I started off with the flip phone back in the day, and then I went up to the smartphone much, much later. And, most of my high school, I believe, was still, yeah, flip phone, slider phone was still like a way crazy concept. Yeah, that's right, because even in college, yeah, they didn't. I'm really dating myself there, but anyways, my point is even in my lifetime, tech has changed incredibly much, or like an incredible amount. And kids today are learning technology, way faster than anyone else. It's exponentially faster, actually. I mean, I don't know, that not really with the math behind that, but yeah, you think about it. Well, here's a frame of reference. I first learned my first coding class back in high school. Now, the standard, I believe, is at least middle school, and it's standardized. Like, everybody takes a computer programming class. It's now the new keyboarding. Just like keyboarding was very important. At least I'm pretty sure. I'd have to look again. It's like, maybe it was just like a very recommended, but I want to say it was standardized. So, and anyways, people are trying to teach it faster than people can learn anyway, myself included. Like it's almost like as soon as people learn it and they have those aha moments and they get all excited, then they want to start helping other people get those aha moments. And that's really true with everything too. Like computer science, especially so. But I was also TWI job instructor trained for building wind turbine blades. And what all that means is there was a standard program for job education in a production environment, producing, massive structures or, whatever the situation may be. It's just, sorry, let me back up a little bit. Short circuiting there. It applies to a wide range of skills in all job sets. Like if you're trying to teach anything, this is good for teaching. Like that's basically what it was. And so, the whole ideology behind that was, you do it a couple of times as an example to show them, then you have them try, and then you do it again to show them. And there's like a certain number, and then they focused on explaining, explain it while you're doing it. And I know I'm just really kind of, I don't know, like it's a whole program. Like there's jobs involved with it and stuff. There's professional teachers about it that teach the class, and I digress. Then that you get into that whole ethical argument of, should any of us be teaching things for free? Because that's just taking work away. But is it? And then I don't know. So it's like I like to approach as much of it as with the open source mentality, such as is a huge part of the computer science world. So, and especially like I don't know, it's very interesting. But instead of rambling about that, let's get back to tech. So I just learned about Jamboards today, and that's what I was actually just doing now, and I'm going to be doing quite a bit of that. Basically putting all my ideas down in an easily readable way. Like you can see it, it's focused, it's all there. It's not all random and it's not an hour long, but I still like these ramblings because then, it allows me to really explore and work on communicating what the thoughts actually are. And that is kind of a nod back to the communications topic the other day or over the weekend. And it's very important, especially swift communication, reducing friction. So Allie K. Miller, a very big proponent for women in tech, and she's just brilliant. She does a bunch with AI. Anyways, she's really big on the LinkedIn's. So once you go, I don't know, I get held up with that because like open source intelligence, how much do you really want to divulge? Well, she's a public figure. She's okay with being exposed. And that gets back to the importance of cybersecurity in one of the topics on the Jamboards that I've been writing down is that in order for global security and prosperity, like it's for both, we need to address things like yes, we have these dangers of open source intelligence, all the things that people can find out about you from social media. And that's why a lot of YouTubers and streamers are kind of like, it's tough because you want to be open with your community, your viewers, your fans or whatever. I wouldn't take it that far, but, people do. But, like, anyways, and that you might not realize what you're sharing, like personal info, age, birthdays, like email addresses, house addresses. Like I already share a lot giving my like city, but at the same time, uh, yeah, no. I mean, I'd rather not think about it. I mean, I like to think I have a nice safety net with law enforcement and all that, but really, a lot of my day-to-day work, well, not my 9 to 5, my side projects, is trying to figure out the other 90%, or how do we secure against the rest of the world? Like, yeah, we're building up blue teaming efforts. We're using red team to study how an attacker thinks, and and even pen testing each other's stuff to make sure, like, okay, wait, do we have vulnerabilities, stuff like that, and it's not all about money. There is a lot of money tied up in the industry, but there's a lot more worry about the risk involved of not having it. And so it's almost like companies are being held almost at gunpoint, like, oh, we got to get our cybersecurity beefed up and all this, and like we've got to get better protection, and well, and that's all fine and good from a capitalistic perspective. I mean, it's not, and I've already discussed like how I feel about the whole capitalism. I mean, it's great, but it's got to have its limits. So, and that's my take on it. And then, not justifying any actions. Anyway, sorry, that way spiraled out of control. Preventative blue teaming, trying to target the problem at the source, like target the problem before it becomes a problem. And and we have this, things like Disney and religion and like all these different types of control structures where it's not control in a negative way, and control gets a bad rap because it's often abused, whether intentionally or unintentionally, but it is at the end of the day a control tactic to try to help humanity live its best life. And back in the day, maybe we didn't have enough resources to even comprehend, like, okay, there aren't enough resources for all of us, so we have to worry about how do we function on a finite set of resources. And that's another Jamboard that I'm so excited. I got to just share these, and like, I mean, through my social media accounts, using that layer of, ambiguity, the people at Google know a lot about me, so hopefully they never go rogue. But at the same time, there's so many lawsuits and everything, and that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother Jamboard, really. And that's something I've noticed, studying business and studying the world as it is, like, um, lawsuits. It's a huge, inefficient waste of resources and time. It would just be better if everybody just practiced good business and really good business ethics, like not just the ones that we say are legal and then stamp, no erases, like I can rob you of your land, stuff like that. Like we're not talking about, I don't know. So, and that goes back to money being the root of all evil. Yep, we're about to go deep here. And it's like, oh wait, do I not have? Hey, come back here. You had a lot of good stuff. Let's see here. I mean, not that I can't just go into the underworld and get this, but yeah, these too. Oh man. All right, so wait. Uh, okay. Where's the other one? Did it float over here? There it is, and we got some llamas. All right. Anyway, sorry, I digress. So yeah, religion and all that. That would have been cool if like we were talking about religious control structures, and then the lightning boomed. Like it would be all. I'm sure I could edit it, talk over it, make it look like that, do some tricks. But oh, this is gonna be. It's not worth it. I should get rid of these anyway. Like I was just infatuated with the fact I had bamboo. Kind of went a little overboard anyway, but. Oh, you think so? Higher power. No, I'm just kidding. I am not trying to mock like religion. That is horrible. I do respect people can have their beliefs, and but at the same time, people need to be cautious of correlation versus causation. And I've seen some pretty good memes where there's like cats. Oh gosh, can they fit through here? There's like cats sitting on something that's really messed up, like One was a picture of a garage door that was just caved in. Like something happened. It was totally smashed in. And it makes it look like the cat did some Dragon Ball Z stuff and like landed on it and smashed the roof, like bent it. I'll have to see if I can't find the pictures of it. But anyways, causation versus correlation. And that's what a lot of people are worried about in regards to religion specifically is, how much of that is like perceived and how much of that is realistic. Like, oh, but God works in mysterious ways. Well, okay, let's say that that is true. But how do you know it is and how do you know it isn't? Like that's kind of an open-ended thing that writes a blank check for people that could potentially do evil with that type of knowledge, that kind of control. It's like giving someone a backdoor to your mind and your morals. Like if you want to talk in computer science terms and like cybersecurity terms, if you allow blind faith in something to where you would be willing to, well, die for it, that's another thing. And not just religion, but we're talking militaries too. Like this struggle in Ukraine. Like, I mean, I'm devastated by it. I hope it stops like a year ago, but and again, my opinion is one, and don't get mad at me for my opinions on it, please. I've had enough of that. Like anytime I try to speak my mind about it, it's like one or the other sides, quote unquote, on the Twitters anyway, just gets all up in arms about it. Poor phrasing, but still, it's like, yeah. Anyways, my point back to control structures is the potential for manipulation and malicious intent with control structures is a present danger for everyone and something that everyone's cautious about. Now, in which ways we're cautious about it depend on our specific perception of it and our interaction with it as well. So you talk religion, if you grew up in a religious community and religion's done really good for that community and it makes people feel good and it gives back to the community, it builds, or like I know, my church growing up went to Africa and did like, mission things and stuff. And then even as I say that, you got to be careful because like some of that missionary stuff, especially back in the day, was not exactly as good intention as we thought. Or maybe it was because it was sponsored by a wealthy person that also wanted to conquest, but piggybacked on that, like, or used it as coattails. And again, that goes back to finite resources. This is back in a time when people weren't even living past like 20 or 30. I'm just kidding. Like, what was it? The other day I was at an orchestra concert and they were talking about the composers and like how old they get. And I know I've seen a few like up there in like the 80s and stuff. So I mean, maybe it was shortened to like 80 or so, but anyways, I digress. It's an overgeneralization that I'm trying to just point out. Like, you should be careful about doing that. I'm joking about it, but I understand, and I hope you understand too, that that might not be accurate. So, and sometimes it's, oh, wait. Why did I leave this here? Oh, because I was digging. Anyways, sorry. That kind of sounds snobby too. Like, you can't just assume people understand what you're saying all of the time because they might not have the proper context or they might not have past experience or even know who you are to understand what you're saying is a joke or not. So rather than trying to take the shortcuts, I do kind of take the time and be like, oh, let me explain this. Because I mean, hey, we're musing. We got a little bit of time. Not really, but yeah. Where was I even going with that? Control structures. There you go. So the potential to manipulate control structures adds a lot of the friction on all sides. Like, oh, okay, we're actually fresh everything. So, and that's the thing. Is like that's why I constantly say like religion is fine at the base. Like it's a good intention. It's that, but people have manipulated it and just misused it to where it's become a taboo. And it doesn't matter what your opinion on it is, right, wrong, true or not. Like it has become an uncomfortable topic in society just like politics. And those are the things that unfortunately we got to address if we're going to keep, move forward or if there is going to be global security and prosperity. Because, I mean, I'm pretty confident we're not going to go into World 3. I know that sounds like, no, that doesn't mean I don't believe it can't happen. I mean, and the other thing is like, if you want to start pointing fingers, we're not exactly the ones without, like that's the thing is like, I love my country. I definitely serve it before others, but like we need to acknowledge that we're not perceived like as perfect as we think we are in the global community, specifically because of the Iraq war. Now, however you feel about it, whatever, we occupied the Middle East for 20 years, did a lot of destruction, blew up a lot of stuff. And I don't care who you are, if you weren't an American, that kind of looks violent and scary in any way. Like we're kind of scaring the world. Like you better get along to get along, or else we'll just, maybe we'll occupy you. And that's not just us. It's just we're the ones with like. Anyways, no, I'm sorry. That's going way too off topic. I'm just saying, in the efforts of security, you got to understand the thinking process of the people that you're trying to either guard against or well, and befriending and assimilation is a form of guarding too. Is like you're ensuring similar outcomes with different means. And that's actually why I try to like stress the importance of open sourcing things, helping people. I mean, it's not just some pie in the sky hippie delusion or anything. It's honestly the best way to have a peaceful environment is to and sincerely and genuinely become friends with them. Don't just fake it. And that's why I say business practices a lot, because with a finite amount of resources, marketing professionals have to sell it even if they don't necessarily believe in it wholeheartedly. And what is it? Doesn't matter, because in business, that's your job. Your entire career is selling things. And especially like I talk about Rick and Morty every now and then. Awesome show, has some kind of sketchy parts. But anyways, in it, we talk about Randy and like, oh, he sells things, and constantly ripping on him. That's neither here nor there. But his entire profession, his job, is to sell things. And so why I kind of really drill that home is we're getting exceptionally well at teaching and educating. We're getting exceptionally well at perfecting job skills, teaching job skills, like reinforcing better job skills. And it's getting, I'd say, exponentially better all the time, because with advanced tech, advanced communication, and then that leads to shorter and quicker, shorter access, more available access, cheaper access, all the different things, like the factors of friction that would keep you from an education, they're falling away. And it's a great thing, but I'm also worried about the people that do teaching for a job. Like already our public school teachers are suffering with their pay because there's too much of a demand to really pay them what they're worth, because we just got so many. Oh, actually, I can't say that. That's a generalization that I don't have any evidence or proof. And that's the annoying thing with politics, but also the good thing is like keep them honest. But it would be better if we just kept them honest from the beginning and just took money out of politics, or took out of campaigning. Sorry, you can't just completely remove it from politics. And honestly, no legislature in the right mind would sign off on that, cutting their own paychecks. But what they probably would sign off on is ending this ridiculous campaigning things. Maybe not right away, but the more people realize like the potential to that, or at least limiting it, like capping it. I know we've had efforts to do that. Like the money is traced, it's audited, like I think to a certain point. I can't speak for sure, and that bothers me. Like I have to put in a Google search just to even speak with authority on that, which and very little, mind you. I'm not a politician. I'm a computer scientist, but studying behavioral blue teaming in efforts to do a different defense surface. We talk about attack surfaces in computer science, like what to defend against. Like if you're worried about protecting a bank system or something, what are the different ways a malicious actor would try to manipulate that system? Well, okay, what are the different ways that we can attack and be proactive about to limit the number of attacks on our system by reducing the amount of people that feel the need or desire to try to rob somebody? And then also, what about perception? Are they robbing someone, or do they feel more comfortable robbing a banking institution because they think it's just a faceless corporate entity? See, that's some common vernacular in the US. Like, I remember as kids, we used to joke around about 7-Eleven, be like, forget them, they club baby seals. And like, we knew it was an outrageous claim. Like, we knew it was. They weren't out there actually like causing oil spills, and nobody's actually really clubbing seals, at least not on camera. So, and you hope that they're not out like getting sick, like kicks or whatever. Anyway, sorry, I digress. We were exaggerating something kind of on purpose, but at the same time, at some level, we did believe that, hey, they're doing well enough. They've got a store full of things that they're trying to sell to me, and like, they might not be doing great business. So I'm already sketchy or leery of business people, like all this quote unquote, and doing air quotes and stuff, good business. So anyways, it's important to note that that is part of the underlying issues of, well, evil in the world. Or how do you defend against something? Well, know your enemy. Well, it's not really an enemy. They're just an enemy for that duration. And that's another thing. The relevancy and irrelevancy of labels, and why it's so important is because you got to realize that it's situational. Like someone, I mean, and even if it's someone stealing from you, I hate to say it, like I'm not justifying crime in any way, but because again, this all goes back to how do we prevent it from happening in the first place? And not just by locking people up. Like, yeah, they stole a bike or whatever, go throw them in jail. But it's like, nah, have them have access to a bike so they don't need to go steal a bike. Like, who are you really impressing at the end of the day? And so that's another misnomer is people do crimes to be cool. Like you think about the old Grease movie, like they were just edgy and like, or the Greasers and Sharks, and we've had it in entertainment for a while. Sorry, there you go. But I was trying to say like drama theater, like but like public entertainment. It's cool to be the bad boy to a point, but you got to understand what's the behavioral really underneath it all. Like, are they cool because they're a bad boy, or are they cool because they reduce the friction enough, even by breaking the laws or the rules, to help said like did it for the dame. Like, oh, I broke a rule so this girl would think I was cool and go out with me or go to prom with me, or some other social anxiety. And so there you go. Like, how do you reduce school bullying? Well, take away the element to where, and I'm not saying, oh God, that sounds bad. Don't go pimping out your daughters. But what I'm saying is we need to work on reducing that kind of friction. Like, because I mean, there is reward for shortcuts, but there's punishment too, and that's what kids need to understand, and people too. Really, is like it's easy to say a phrase like, "Oh, shortcuts," or "fast, live fast, die hard," or and there's more. I can't think of them right now, but like people say things in a marketable way that's snazzy or catchy, and that's a thing, and it sticks, and you don't really get the time to explain. Now, hold up, there are exceptions to this rule, or hey, not always. Like, there's almost always fine print, and that's another thing, fine print. Like we've been trained to look for tricks, look for scams. Like we've gotten better about it. We've got the BBC telling us like, or the BBB, sorry, not British Broadcasting Corporation, but we got the Better Business Bureau. Sorry, it was a bad save. But anyways, um, memes, I tell you, I've just been watching memes all day. Oh no, not even. Anyways, I digress. But wow, we really went off the rails. Situational. There you go. So the Business Bureau, there it is. Business practices. So all of that is like we're trying to keep ourselves and our friends and family secure, but the enemy is all around us, quote unquote, because we perceive enemies in the business we do, like the deals we make, like, and not like enemy to the point, like don't exaggerate it, like, oh, we got to go like kill the enemy or destroy. Never do any of that. Like this is not the olden days. Like death is permanent, and that's what we need to realize is like, especially with all this turf conflict. Like I get it, you're angry, you got robbed on a deal. Like, so it was a bad business deal. It's not necessarily like the world is not over. It is for some people. A lot of people it's over. I mean, and great. How do you feel about that? Like, how do you really feel? Anyway, sorry, that's my soapbox that way. Anyway, and then the music's getting all intense. Like, again, correlation versus causation. You got to be careful. Because even if Mojang could be manipulating stuff and watching these, which they totally could, they're probably not. And that's the same with like people that are paranoid about the government watching you. Well, yeah, they're watching you if something happens. Like that's the whole point of watch lists. And anybody who's seen the movie Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, I believe, they talk about watch lists on there, like, oh, this person kind of was flagged because they were checking out books of a certain nature. Well, you enter search queries of a certain nature, you might get flagged as suspicious. You not might, you will be. So like, but that's it. It's not like they've got a designated FBI agent sitting on you day and night. They might have one that checks in on you periodically, or maybe watches your videos or something. I'm just kidding, but like they could. Um, but they're probably not. Now, there's other ways to monitor behavior and activity aside from watching every second or doing anything. Like, well, just like, well, I don't know how much I should say about that, but um, sorry, I just happen to know a few things that probably aren't the best. Now we'll just leave it at that. Anyways, no, they can monitor like, let's put it in frames of cybersecurity. They could monitor the activity of an application. To see whether it's off mining Bitcoin or if it's off being part of a zombie net or if it's off, transmitting your banking data to someone across the world. And those are like the main reasons that we protect our data. At the end of the day, you got to think of what the attackers want. Well, and to even think about that, you got to think about, all right, what are the levels of attackers? Okay, are they a state actor that are working on, behalf of a government or a military? Are they hacktivists where, they want to right some outrageous wrongs, either perceived or real? Because again, remember, perception is reality, and a lot of times, if there was proper communication, a lot of things wouldn't really seem as bad as they are, or maybe they're worse. But I like to think with enhanced communication technology, and even as I say that, we got people dying, so I get it, skepticism or being skeptical about it, but the more technology we have available to everybody, the more we can see the truth from the lies. And by that I mean even like journalism and media, like they skew the truth to get the best story a lot of times. And again, that goes back to the best business practices. Unfortunate model that it is, but the best stories sell the most news. And now, like I even saw Twitter is talking about starting to charge for news articles. Now that seems messed up to me, and that's I mean, I'm still not gonna go hate on Elon, and I do subscribe to Twitter. Like, I got the Twitter check, whatever. So, it's because I enjoy it. I enjoy the discussions that I have on there. But, anyways, I digress. I do think that that's outrageous to charge for news. But in the imperfect world of finite resources, where people have to make a living at the end of the day, so there's that whole thing. And this is actually some controversy. So, sorry, a little context there. Nestle. I remember hearing something about the Nestle CEO saying that people don't deserve free drinking water. They shouldn't be guaranteed free drinking water. But then I've also heard scary stories about, I want to say even the same person saying, well, people shouldn't own cars or people shouldn't. And then it's like, okay, that does sound scary in the beginning, but let's think about that. If everybody just borrowed cars or had a car that would come get them, or if there's some other solution that was either safer, cheaper, both, or if we got to the epitome of that kind of market, and again, if we got to the epitome of living or like the proper like ultimate paradise, we wouldn't really even need money or markets. Everybody would just, and then you get into that hippy dippy thinking of, oh, well, the communal style living doesn't work. You can't just exchange goods and services without exchanging or without currency. Like you need money. So, or you need some kind of way of, until you don't. So if you did have everything provided, and mind you, that is everything to have like the best life, like which we kind of are close to. I mean, you got a TV, you got some VR, you can experience just about anything. Like, the better we make virtual realities and simulations, which is also scary because I remember Neil deGrasse. I butcher that name. So if I ever meet Neil, it's gonna be awkward. I'm gonna have to apologize. But no, I remember him talking about simulations and how we're either on the cusp of finding out how to make the perfect simulation, or this is a perfect simulation because we already figured it out, and that's a scary thing to think about. That's actually something that, oh, I was messing with someone in my Subway days, and I had convinced him that what if we're not real? What if we're like really in, like a mental facility and we're just like cutting sandwiches in the air because what we are perceiving is our reality, and it is so real to us that we continue to just show up, make sandwiches for people that don't even exist. And he was looking at me like really questioning himself, and he's like, "Wait, no, 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 I don't like this. I don't like this at all." And it's true because nobody can really know. Like, the Matrix could be a thing. And I remember going through that head trip way back in the day when the Matrix first came out. At least in my mind. I don't know. It all could be a farce. But let's err on the side of caution and say it's not. And, oh, careful of the ocelot. All right. So, because you never know. And it's safer that way anyway. And again, if you didn't have the motive for crime being having a hard life, not or having a poor upbringing, like, and all, even in the stories, it's a common denominator of like all the stories you hear growing up as a kid is like, oh, the poor person ended up stealing, like Jean Valjean stole the bread and became a criminal. And like, okay, maybe not even those stories, like Robin Hood. Like we had an outlaw stealing because the rich king was so, so and so. It's like there's always been a finite amount of resources and training on how to live with that, like how to live in as perfect harmony as possible with animals, with each other, with, the finite resources. But imagine if resources weren't finite, if they were infinite, if we just had everything and didn't have to worry about things. Okay, well then the Matrix dilemma is, then what's the point? Why would anybody live in the perfect reality in the simulation? And I don't know if I buy that, honestly. Like, there's different forms of paradise because I'm a firm believer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and maybe that is ingrained at our base level of our DNA so we can survive as a species, and that's just natural. Like, if you think about it, that's not that big of a stretch. Like, our DNA code, there's like instructions in it, our like natural instinct, if you will. Like, there's definitely stuff there. There's entire like studies and all that. Like, yeah, we're instinctually set to behave a certain way, and as time goes on, those instincts change. Although, even though I say that, I'd really like to be not necessarily corrected, but I'd like to hear from a professional that actually knows what they're talking about with all that, because I've just had a glimpse of it, we'll say. And that glimpse is getting better too. So I might actually just be talking to, I don't know, I could probably get the answers posted by, sorry, I just didn't, I want to make sure not to sound weird with that, because I got kiddos in grade school, and that's the thing, is like, they're learning so much so fast, but at the same time, don't go trying to talk to a grade school kid to solve your problems. But I'm saying they could in the near future with how smart they're getting, but we still got to fix the creepy aspect. That's a big danger in the world too, and it's not something I really like to think about, except, how do you fix it? Well, fix it at the source. Okay, so, and that might be getting a little deep. That might be something for another day, and maybe even something behind a disclaimer wall, because there are some aspects of, all of this preventative blue teaming that it's just like, not necessarily sketchy, but you got to really prep the audience for it. Like, I don't know. Well, okay, so the taboos. So we're just now recently finding out that psychedelics are useful as medicine. So we'll even go there. So even this topic, in the wrong state, in the wrong, audience, would be viewed as dangerous, as, like illegal on a federal level, like whatever. But the fact is Johns Hopkins, a well-known medical facility, very well known. Oh God, now I sound like that one guy. Sorry. Sorry. And there you go, a little sympathy. I mean, I even sound like someone that up until recently I used to mock quite a bit. I still do with my friends, but I try to keep it limited on the Twitters because they're taboos for a reason, and I don't want to add fuel to that fire. So, anyways, um, where do I go with that? Ah, dang it, I went too far down the rabbit hole. I straight up forgot what I was even talking about. Anyways, paradise couldn't exist. Oh yeah, genetic code, natural instinct, all that, and then ask. Okay, I got it. I'm back. Sorry, I had to walk back a little bit. So yeah, don't go asking kids to answer questions. We can cut down on perverts by realizing they're not labeled perverts for life, but we could address mental issues with new upcoming technologies and substances. But also, we can reduce it by, geez, and I went right all into it. Just dove into it. Um, See, it is kind of dangerous because, and the reason is religion, and religious makes a lot of, not that it's a problem, but to be good in one's faith, in most major religions, you have to be more reserved about sex. And so that's the thing, is like, it's one of the tactics, and I don't know if I'm ready to put that on a YouTube video yet, but like, basically, I don't know. We'll talk about that later when it's a little safer to present, because if you just say it like that, it does sound radical and everything. Basically, the end goal is to reduce all crime in general, but all sex crimes, and not making everything legal, stopping it from happening, and not in any like oppressive control state where like you're on lockdown 23 hours a day. So yeah, of course you're not going to commit crimes. You got to make it scalable to where the, or no, well, not just scalable. Yeah, you need that too, but you need to make it correlate with increased quality of life comes increased security, like security and prosperity. The two do, like, used to be they were mutually exclusive because finite resources, but now we're getting to the point where, I mean, and people like to say, oh no, there's a population crisis, or we're overpopulated and all this. And now I'm hearing stuff like, oh, now we're underpopulated, our population's in decline. Well, whatever the case may be, is I know that we have enough resources for every person in this world. And there you go, sounding communist, and that's what some people would say. And that's why I hate isms. It's because people can just throw out a whole argument and just be like, oh, commie, just like done. It's like, no, hold on, wait, what? Like, it doesn't even matter if you are a communist. You'd still be like, wait, that's not how, like, not saying I am, but, the isms, it's not analysis paralysis. It's misinformation station. I'm just kidding. I don't know a fancy way to say that. I'll think of something. But until then, analysis paralysis, it's close to that. It's not analysis paralysis. It's paralysis in the sense of ignorance, or and not even intentional. Most of the time it's unintentional because of misinformation or not enough information, or how, and this goes back to the media. I have a specific meme in mind showing like, it depends on who takes the picture, how you're going to feel about a picture. And it shows a picture of like this kid drinking water, and the soldier holding the water for the kid. And then it shows this other picture where there's another soldier holding a gun to the kid's head and forcing the kid to drink. And it's like, yeah, and that's real. I mean, that's really a danger in society today, is it depends on who told you the information. Do they have an agenda? And so what we need to do is remove the agendas. Well, wait, how do we do that? Well, I mean, one, how you do it in America is you take money out of campaigning and you stop the circus. That's a big thing. Is like, if they don't have to buy their votes and trick people, then they're not tricking people, right? I mean, they might still trick you so they can get the high-paying job. That's understandable. I mean, it's not correct, it's not ethical, and it shouldn't be legal. But at the end of the day, it's what's going on. So like, why sugarcoat it? Like. So, anyways, I digress. But if you remove the need or the motive behind the criminal activity, you reduce or stop the crime. I'm not, delusional in saying, oh, crime's going to completely go away, but we could greatly improve our living situation by reducing a lot more crime, being more proactive at preventative measures, sorry. And that's why, like, we get caught and splitting hairs between the two political parties. It's like, on average, I feel like one side likes to try to do this and help out the poorer communities and stuff. And then on average, the other side tends to more make up arguments like, oh, we don't have the money to do this. Well, okay. And then it's like, do we or do we not? And that's when we get into the whole, and I definitely do not have any stake in this fight, but the debt ceiling and all that. Like, we're constantly in debt. We're in debt to all this, to these people, those people. And but then at the same time, we're also helping the world. And I guess that's why there's so much anger and confusion over that, is because on one side of things, like, we spend so much money, and on the other side we don't. And like, and the other side, oh, but we got to cut it, and we got to make here. And like, and we've become so diluted the other way, where it's paralysis in overcomplicating things. Like, spaghetti code is what you'd call it in programming, where you just try too hard at solving a problem one way that you end up just mucking it up, like murky waters. Like, you're trying to clean the bottom of a streamer, like a slow moving pond or something. Sorry, I'm trying to think of like where that actually be a thing, because if it's a river, then it's not all. Anyways, I digress. But you don't clear the waters of a pond by stirring up more dirt. Like, basically is the concept behind that. There's like a cute phrase to go with it and everything, but my point being is you don't, or here's another one: security through obscurity. There you go. Like, you make a system so secure that you can't even get into it, then what was the point of making the security at all? I mean, great, nobody can get into it, but now you can't either, so it renders it useless, or at least not as efficient as originally designed or planned. So, anyways, I digress a lot. Um, Actually, that's probably good for now. I'm actually in the process of deleting these things off of the old PS5, because as I post them, I can free them up. But I do like this, I gotta say. I'm gonna keep playing with that Jamboard. I'm actually gonna go do some of that right now, and then yeah, I'm gonna try to share that. I'll put the link in the video when I get that up and running. But you got to remember, you got to be patient with people too, and that's why I'm leaving up all my old YouTube videos. Like, if you want to go back and watch them, great. I'm going to come up with newer learning materials all the time. In fact, at the time of this recording, you're kind of stuck with them, because I haven't gone back and remade a lot of them yet. But anyways, because I want to keep the documentation around for like my journey, as it were. And that's what I liked about Fighting Cowboys. I could tell when I was watching his other videos, like, you could tell, I don't know how early he was into it or how experienced, but like, he was explaining things like, I'm doing this for this reason and stuff. And, and I like that. I was like, oh, that's cool. And he was still like playing, I don't even know what it was. It was like Bloodborne or Dark Souls. He does all these awesome games. And so I was just enjoying watching it. It was like, oh, cool. He's explaining to me. Oh, and I wasn't even thinking that. Like, we are our worst critics. Granted, I know some of my stuff, like when I forget to record audio and I'm just muted, or I start off without an intro and I just start talking. I don't know. I'll keep getting better, or I won't. Someone will, and that's what's refreshing is like everybody's stepping up. Like it feels like, I mean, more and more people are becoming aware of what they can do, what their part can be. Although it's also scary because then, what do you do for a job? Like if you give all this way for free, and then it's like, well, let's just give everybody a house. Let's give everybody a horse. Like Vermin Supreme, that was his thing. He campaigned. So if you don't know about Vermin Supreme, is some guy. I still follow some of his stuff on the Twitters. He's funny, but it's a joke. Like at least I'm pretty sure it was when I saw it. No, it is. But like, he ran a fake campaign and he said, everyone a horse. Well, that is kind of funny at first because you're like, oh, silly, let's give them horses and blah blah blah. But then if you think about it, it's like, actually, wait, what if we just gave everybody the means to communicate or to commuting, cutting down the need for commuting, like encouraging more work from home, remote situations. Like, there's a lot of things we could be doing that also helps, environment and all that. It's multifaceted problem solving or scalable problem solving. There you go. See, yeah, scalability. It's a beautiful thing. And, if we were just thinking, work smarter, not harder, however you want to put it, if we were thinking in more scalable ways and solving problems, we would just be doing a lot better. I mean, I don't know how to better to put that is like, we should be doing it. So, oh, but sorry, the reason we don't is because we don't have enough stuff. So basically, by that means we have, in order to be good with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to feel comfortable in your setting before you start focusing on others. Like it's a waterfall, or it's like a, yeah, think of it as like a waterfall, or like the real trickle down. All right, so first you take care of yourself, and then once you're good, oh, I don't even have emeralds. I need to, sorry. So once you're good, then you can help others. But that's the problem with a lot of our situations is we have unrealistic expectations, so we never feel good to the point, or we rarely feel to the good to the point where we can give charity or we can do stuff for others. Now that's not completely true because even as I say that, I know there's people out there that do volunteer work, whether it's for your resume, which is really good, you should be doing that too, but also, for being a good person. But it's easier said than done, and especially if you don't have like a lot of resources. If you're a kid, you're trying to get your resume up before you get your first job or whatever, you still probably have to have your parents drive you around places, or if you're like finally of driving age, like, so it's understandable. I mean, it makes sense when you take a step back and look at it as a whole. And oh, bought some cookies, and I'm gonna make a jam board out of it about stepping back, looking at it as a whole, and how everything makes sense if you think about it. And I say that because I used to say something as a joke at work, be like, "Oh, it makes sense if you don't think about it," and then just move on and then get a laugh out of someone. But like, it really does. Like, the world makes sense once you realize people are scrambling for finite resources. That's it. Like, even crime, like the basis of all crime is either directly related to not having enough resources or indirectly related to not having enough resources by having a harder life. However you want to spin it. Think about any plot in history. Like, they don't got a lot of stuff. Oh, okay, let's go get some stuff. Oh, should we be doing that? Who cares? We're not going to see him again. And that's like the city versus small town mentality. And that's what kind of, made me laugh. Like, and also made me question things. Like, coming to the big city, it's not even that big of a city. And then coming from a small town where if you steal something, like, unless it's from a corporation, I'm just kidding, don't steal anything. But if you steal something from someone in a small town, you're done. Like, the entire town shuns you. I mean, it's like, it really is ghetto, like in the stories, like, I mean, oh, the village, hurrah, hurrah, like, not really that bad, but it's a lot easier to hold people accountable when you have, like, the entire town is just a giant set of watchful eyes. And, and I'm not saying it needs to get to that, and I really am not saying, like, we need to start turning everyone in for everything, but we need to make it work to where people don't need to do these things. Like, that's the point. Like, that's preventative blue teaming. And that's, in my opinion, the most effective way to win cyber war or anything, or like just win the war on anything. I'm just kidding. Let's stop declaring wars on things. That's just dumb. I mean, we tried it. It didn't work. Let's leave it alone. Sorry, that's my opinion on that. But seriously, if we thought about addressing the root cause of issues, we would have a lot less issues. I guess is a better way to put that. And that's why I like preventative blue teaming. I'm going to keep doing what I can. Like, I'm going to make some jam boards. I'm going to get them out there. And I don't even have to do a lot. Like literally all it takes is for someone like, I don't know, Mr. Beast or Elon Musk or any of these like people, and they will. I mean, Musk is still trying to recoup losses on Twitter, and granted, I know his heart's in the right place, but it does make him look bad when he starts charging for things like news on the Twitters. I mean, but at the same time, hopefully that'll become our new voting system, so then we can prove without a doubt, and not even a reasonable doubt, just without a doubt, here's the audit trail. You know, here's the digital transactions. You cannot fake these. Like, that's why, cryptocurrency is so, such the rage and everything. Why it's also dangerous because I don't even understand it fully, but as much as I do understand, I get like the idea that it's supposed to be a traceable currency through blockchain that, and I do understand encryption and all that and hashes and how you can make things like fingerprints. Like you can create digital fingerprints and like you can have a lot more increased accountability in finances that way. So, but again, if we just address the root of all evil, just get rid of money and make it to where everybody on earth has the access to everything that they could. I mean, and that's the thing, like that's like extreme communism if you wanted to throw an ism on it, but like no, my point is like if everybody was well enough, but then would, and there's the moral dilemma of like would we actually get to the matrix paradise, and then would we have to hit the reset button? Well, I don't think so. I mean, that is kind of sketchy. I mean, how could I know? I can't possibly know. But like, and so like music starting in, like Minecraft is kind of funny. Like you got to be careful because like, oh God, I would not put. Sorry, gosh, I should say gosh more. I don't want to offend people, but like, well, and here's the scary thing too. Like, let's say God exists and like God's like watching this stuff. Like that is just creepy in my mind. And so if there is a God, if they exist, and if they work in mysterious ways, forgive me because that's what it is. But at the same time, I'm just really not buying it. And then again, it doesn't have to be some like you want to get really Twilight Zone with it. Say we are in a simulation and some IT system admin like myself is walking around checking on the virtual machines like, yep, this one's still running. And that's Earth. Oh man. Please no. I hope that's not. Anyways, losing. No, and so either way, here's how you can don't panic if you ever get into a feeling of anxiety like that or anything. Like if you start questioning reality, anyone who's a fan of South Park knows that episode where Kyle he actually freaks himself out into becoming the all-knowing, all-one conscious, and then he does some stuff, and then he returns back to a normal kid. He's like, oh, that was weird. Let's not do that again. Like, so yeah, so don't have anxiety about this. Don't freak out. Like, even if, just always remember to err on the side of caution, no matter what, no matter how weird things get. Like, you know, never let yourself do just ridiculously outrageous things just because you think it's a dream or something. That's how bad things happen. Like, I mean, I don't know. So you also got to be careful with bad communication. Perception is reality. You could be perceiving a situation or circumstance very, incorrectly or very horribly, and you could do something. That's why I hate alcohol and stuff. Let's circle back to that real quick, because like the drinking, like you lose part of your decision making, and you also gain aggression, and you lose communication. So all of these different factors to where it's like you become more dangerous the more you drink. And even if you're a happy drunk and you've never hurt anyone, there is still such a higher risk or chance of well, danger or insecurity or risk. Like, I don't know. I mean, I like to think that that would also get better too. Like, if we're really believing this, like, let's start fixing the world's problems and like making things better for everyone. You got to make it scalable to the people that still like to drink. Like, just because I don't like to does not mean I can enforce that on others. That's not what being free means. So we got to be careful about that. And so scalable problem solving, we got to still make the world a better place the best we can until we can figure out that aspect too. So let's get there, and then, milestones, benchmarks. Like, we're not going to fix it overnight. However, we're getting a lot faster at doing it because problems are solved like almost instantly, which is good news, bad news. It's bad news for the black hats and even the gray hats. And I admit, I understand why there's such an argument for gray hat, because laws aren't exactly just. I mean, and literally in the last couple of centuries, we're like 250 years old. I don't know. I'd have to like look at it, but like This country, huge human rights violations. And then we also turned around and we helped stop Germany. So, in the grand scheme of things, in the entire world history, actually, I wouldn't even say we're even yet. Like, how do you measure? In fact, I don't even want to go down that because that is kind of offensive. Like, then you're weighing the worth or the value of someone's life, and that's not right. So, and when we say it in that context, what's worse, the Holocaust or the colonization? Well, instantly you're gonna say, oh, the Holocaust, but it's like, wait a minute, how many people died? And then, but then you get into like the brass tacks and the numbers because you're trying to equate one atrocity over another. Yeah, it's a slippery slope. It's very offensive. Like, or there's a high potential for offense, I should say, because I definitely don't mean anything I say to have offense. I'm not trying to arm my words or like try to hurt anyone. Like I fully understand the dangers of poor communication. That's poor as in malformed and poor as malicious too. You can have poor communication. That's misinformation. That's lying. You can have misleading, which is where you have an agenda. So I'm going to accomplish this goal by tricking this person or running a scam, And when it's said so bluntly like that, it's like, oh, a scam. I don't want to do that. And even my own kids understand that. Like every time we walk by a claw machine, we're like, nope, it's a scam. And like, cause it is a scam. The whole point of a claw machine is like the one person that might study up on the internet on how to do it. And, and that's kind of like, some would consider that cheating, but others would consider that studying or like, training. But then also at the end of the day, it's kind of a scam anyway, because its intention is the majority of people, just like gambling, will not win. The majority of people will give their money for that little thrill, that little second of feeling good, and then being like, oh. And that's where you get gambling addiction, is you're chasing the feeling of good, or like when you win something, when you hit it big, and you might not realize, oh, that doesn't actually happen. Like the odds are so astronomically against you. And I do it. I play the lottery, like not a lot, but I've played it enough to where I'm like, I could have really used that money. Like, I mean, not really, like it wasn't that big, but if you add it up over time, my entire lifetime, I don't know. I don't know if I want to think about that. And thoughts like that make me not play as much. But then I also think, well, it's going to the wildlife and, the nature areas of Colorado. And as a Coloradoan, I do love that, but I'm also paying taxes and that's going to it. So again, perfect world if we removed the need for all of that. And maybe if we all just took a bit of time and went out and picked up trash on the trails. Or the scalable philosophy of Colorado is leave it better than you found it. And that's even a stretch. I like the other one, leave no trace. That's even better because then it's like, you're not forced to do something that you weren't really setting out to do. And by that, I mean, you're not incurring like a debt or like an offense, like, oh, why should I have to do this? Why can't people just be better and not throw trash on the ground? Well, yeah, they shouldn't throw trash on the ground. You're right. But the trash is still on the ground, whether you said that or not. So at the end of the day, who's going to be the bigger person and just pick up the trash? Or you could try to train people better to where leave no trace means that it must be an accident to why the trash is there. And that does happen. Like wrappers blow away, especially in the wind. Like if a trash can is insecure, or if like the lid came off for whatever reason, an animal or a person left it, like whatever the reason, doesn't matter. To be as scalable in the problem solving of that issue, you have to address the issue of, well, there's trash on the ground. What do we do? Well, and that's what I usually do is like, how silly do I look? Like, do I just pick it up? Because I want to say I try to pick it up. But if it's in a situation where like I'm in a hurry or like, I'm going to just look ridiculous doing it or, and there's these things, usually I just pick it up to avoid thinking like that. But when I don't, that's the thought process is like, I kind of overthink it to the point where, and you don't want to seem like, a do-gooder, like where it's just annoying, like, oh, I'm picking up trash, so I'm better, because there it is, like the social friction of doing that is, and you hear back in religion, sorry, like this is me, because I have read a lot of the Bible when I was growing up, and like that is part of the thing is like, don't, pride and all that, and don't do the good thing. I'm horribly phrasing it because it has been a long time, but the idea is don't brag about your stuff because that's not what it's about. That's not why you're doing good. And that goes back to the bullying thing. Think about it that way. Like a lot of people, like bullies, will do bad things to look cooler or whatever. So they get the girl, or maybe it's not so they look cooler, maybe so they feel less bad about themselves. There's a multitude of reasons behind it. And by studying it and understanding it, we can address the issues at the root rather than try to do like all sorts of after the fact fixing of it. And that's why, I love cybersecurity, is because it taught me to think like this. Like, you've got this huge task of protecting against all of these different things. I mean, really, it's only a few things when you get down to it, but like the ways that they can be done are like, I mean, well, they're coming new ways all the time, because you can't completely secure a system unless you don't even have access to it yourself. Like, that's the only way to be completely secure. Like, because you have to have access to be an admin, they have to have access as an admin to totally wreck your stuff. Like, that's the basis of cybersecurity in a nutshell. So, be safe out there. But anyways, no. So then you get different ways to solve it, and that's why I keep doing all this stuff. That's why I'm so excited about this, is because like all it takes is for a few of these ideas. Oh, and there we are. We're hitting the hour mark. My reminder just came up. But yeah, all it'll take is a few well-placed ideas, and then, and I'm already comfortable that it's happening. Like, we've got such good communication, and like people get it now. Like, and that's what it is at the end of the day. Like, they actually understand it, and not completely. Like, don't misquote me there. Like, nobody knows everything, but we know enough to make better decisions now. Now we just need to kind of like keep following through, keep accountable, and all of that. So, anyways, yeah, we'll call that good. Have a great day, everybody. I'm going to go do some Jamboards, and I'll try to leave a link in the description. See you later.